Hello once more, and welcome back to Trail Back into doing my 2025 Big Ten predictions week number 5 as we get into it here on this Thursday. 6 games on the schedule this week, a light schedule. All games on this Saturday this week, starting out with the first one with the USC Trojans from Southern California. They have to travel 2 time zones to play Illinois on Saturday afternoon on Fox for the Big Ten game of the week on Fox on Saturday afternoon, which is going to be a very interesting game. Illinois coming off a loss 63-10 to Indiana, where they only scored 10 points against the Hoosiers and dropped from 9 to number 21. UC comes in ranked number 23rd in the country, so top 25 matchup between two teams in the Big Ten. They're at the bottom of the top 25 in the Big Ten conference. Went into it, and Illinois, this is their first game against USC since they played in the Rose Bowl in 2007-2008, where USC won. But now, it's a regular season game, a Big Ten Conference matchup for Illinois at home in Champaign. USC traveling across 2 time zones. That was actually last year for the Big Ten West Coast teams, and this week there are 3 Big Ten West Coast teams traveling across 2 different time zones, or 3 different time zones this week. With this being the first of 3 of them, as we look at it, overall, I think that for USC, that's going to be tested. They're going to be tested. They weren't tested a few weeks ago when they played Purdue, in 3 different time zones to the Eastern time zone, but having to come back after going back home, they have to do it again. But the good news for USC, though, is they're coming off a bye week, they're not. They're coming off a 45-31 win from last weekend when they beat Michigan State. And I think it's going to be tough for USC traveling across 2 different time zones playing against an Illinois team. It's going to be 9 a.m. to their players. I think, personally, this game for USC might be a tight game for them to play against Illinois. I think Illinois USC. I think this game can come down to which team can make the least amount of mistakes. Can USC not make mistakes in this game, traveling across different time zones? I think yes, they can. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to come down to which team doesn't turn the ball over in this matchup. I think USC comes away with a close win, as I do think they go on the road and beat Illinois to stay in the top 25. So give the Trojans a win for me here in this one on a Saturday. Moving on. Next matchup. Rutgers travels from Rutgers to Minnesota, taking on the Gophers on Saturday afternoon, a game on the Big Ten Network this weekend. And as we get into this one here, Rutgers, Minnesota, 2 teams that their coaching staffs know each other. Their quarterback for Rutgers knows Minnesota because he played there a few years back. And I think that's the one storyline in this game. The 2 offensive coordinators, they flipped schools. One's at Rutgers, the other one's at Minnesota now. So I think it's going to be a game where there are going to be 2 identical teams looking at each other and going into this one, both with a good same record. And I think it's going to come down to which team and which offensive coordinator can make the best plays against his former school. With Rutgers, they have their quarterback playing against his former team in Minnesota, which is going to be one of those interesting games to see and see what happens. Overall, at the end of the day, I think Minnesota playing at home has a better chance, and I think they get a good chance to get a big win here. But in this one, give me Minnesota at home against Rutgers, as I do think the Gophers take a win at home. Moving on to the late afternoon window, we have Indiana. After winning 63-10 against Illinois, they're traveling to Iowa City to play the Hawkeyes on Saturday afternoon, a game I will be at in person. Looking forward to seeing this one, 63-10 last week for the Hoosiers. I'm coming off a big win, 38-28 against Rutgers on the road. And I think the storyline of this one is this. Will Iowa stop Indiana from scoring 60-plus points? Yes, I do think that's going to happen, because it's always tough for teams in the Big Ten to go in Iowa and play games on the road. You have the crowd around the top of you. It's loud, it's noisy, and I think that's one of the tough things for opposing teams when they play at Iowa. They're going to have to play good, make the biggest plays they can in this one at the end of the day. And looking at Iowa, last time they played Iowa a few weeks ago, they scored 40. Only gave up 7 at least. But it comes down to Iowa's defense. Iowa's defense, they're going to have to step up and make big plays. The quarterback, Mark Gronowski, he's going to have to make the big plays well. He scored 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground last week for the Hawkeyes, and I think that was the difference maker. Can Iowa's offense come and play? Will there be wide receivers or running game? I don't know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be about which team's defense makes the big plays. I think Iowa gets a big win here and upsets the number 11 team in the Indiana Hoosiers in the country with a big win at home on a homecoming week. For that, give me the Hawkeyes in this one at home on their homecoming game against the Hoosiers of Indiana. Moving on, this time around, Ohio State, after being on the bye week, Ohio State travels to Washington Huskies in a big Big Ten game. You look at the Huskies, and they're coming off a big win, 59-24 against Washington State. Ohio State coming off a bye week. And the storyline in this one is what happened last year in Ohio State when they traveled across the country to the West Coast. Last year when they traveled to Oregon, played in a Saturday night game. Afternoon game, 4:30 p.m. out there on the West Coast. This time around, it's a 12:30 start for them out west. Last year it was Ohio State. They had issues. They lost a 1-point game to Oregon, which was close at the end of the day. And then Ohio State comes back and does a rematch in the Rose Bowl and beats Oregon, and Oregon couldn't get anything going. And I look at this matchup right here and say, this Ohio State Washington, it could be one of those matchups where the offenses show up, or the defense show up, I believe. And it's going to be one of those games where Ohio State's going to have to learn. Washington's allowed. Washington is allowed place to play. A conference game when they weren't Pac-12 team. Pac-12 teams had issues there. Now that they're a Big Ten team, we'll see. Last year, Washington went 6-0 at home. So overall, Washington's doing good. Ohio State's doing good as well. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to come down to, can Washington stop Ohio State's plan of passing and running and everything? And can Ohio State do the same and surprise Washington and get a big win? At the end of the day, I think Ohio State comes away with it with a big win on the road. So come the Buckeyes out 2 time zones west after they're traveling across 3 time zones to the West Coast. I'm taking the Buckeyes in this one. Moving on, though. It's a battle for last place in the Big Ten. UCLA coming in 0-3. Northwestern coming in 1 win. And a few losses down here. Let's get into it. The 2 bottom feeders in the Big Ten, Northwestern, UCLA, have to travel from the Pacific time zone all the way to the Central time zone. That's going to be one of the biggest issues, I think, this week for the Bruins this week, as they have to travel to 3 different time zones, to the Central time zone to Chicago for UCLA. They're coming off a bye week after being 0-3, fired their head coach. I think the biggest storyline is this one is, will UCLA show up to play for their interim head coach, or will Northwestern and David Braun come in and get a big win at home? I think with UCLA transitioning from one head coach to an interim head coach, I think it's going to be the toughest thing possible going to conference play. And it's going to test them the rest of the year for sure. With that being said, I do see Northwestern getting a big win here at home against UCLA, as I think the Maroons start 0-4 on their head 0-1 in the Big Ten. Well, last but not least, the best game of the night coming up on Saturday night. Oregon Ducks ranked 6th in the country. Penn State ranked number 2. Top 10 matchup in Penn State, Happy Valley on Saturday night. Maybe one of the best Big Ten games to watch all year. We'll have to wait and see, though. Should be fun, though, to see it. And going into this one, storyline of this one is Penn State having issues against top 10 opponents, and also having issues against top 25 Big Ten opponents as well in the last decade or plus. And I think that's going to be the storyline of this game that dictates the game in the whiteout. Penn State at home against Oregon. I already mentioned Big Ten championship where Oregon won in Indianapolis last year. I think the biggest storyline of this one is how's the whiteout going to affect Oregon? Who's going to win? For me, I think it's going to be about which team can make the best plays possible. I think it's going to be about special teams mostly in this game. I think this game is going to be a field goal battle by the end of the night. It might seem like 5 or 6 field goals potentially, maybe a few touchdowns here and there as well. At the end of the night, I see Oregon, the top team in the Big Ten, going on the road and winning at Penn State, taking the rematch for the Big Ten championship game again, and maybe taking over its number two spot in the rankings next week. With that being said, give me the Ducks on the road as I'm taking Oregon this week. And there you have it, my 2025 Week 5 Big Ten predictions in the books. Here, I'll see you, the quick version coming up in a few minutes. And after that, I'll see you next Thursday, Week 6, for the Big Ten predictions. Please remember to watch, like, subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends to do the same if they have not done so yet already. And also, don't forget to hit that notification button below. So there's a new video on the channel. With that being said, have a good day. Stay safe. And peace out. I'll see you right back here next Thursday for Week 6. Bye for now. Have a good day. Stay safe. And peace out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye for now. See ya.